You got to know who you came from, where you came from, and, draw strength from the Lord and know that you're not a sissy.
Welcome to Leaders of the West, a podcast for innovators and changemakers. I'm your host, Jessie Jarvis, the founder of the West, and I'm sitting down with agriculturalists, entrepreneurs, executives, and everyone in between with the goal of digging into the strategies, mindsets, and lessons that have been crucial to the success of ag and Western. Whether you're carrying on the next generation of your family's operation, starting something from scratch, or determined to climb up the leadership ladder, we're going to inspire you to continue to dream big, growing not just you, but the future of agriculture and Western as a whole. Let's go. Recently, I was talking with a college student who said, Jessie, I keep applying for jobs, but I never hear back. And I get it. I have totally been there. It is so frustrating when it feels like your resume is disappearing into the void. And that is one of the reasons that we built our resume database. It flips the hiring process around to a degree, so employers who have active jobs on the site can actually search for candidates whose resumes are in that resume database. So if you've added your resume to the database and they're looking for somebody with your specific set of skills, your name is going to pop up, and then based on the information that's in your resume, they're going to be able to reach out to you and invite you to apply for their positions. It's definitely not a guarantee, but it's one of those quiet advantages that can make a big difference, because the truth is, opportunities don't always show up just because you applied. They often show up because you made yourself visible. So if you are job hunting or you just want to be ready when something opens up, it's absolutely free to set up as part of your job seeker account on Of the West. And you can go to ofthewest.co and either register for a new account, or if you already have an account, you can go log into your dashboard and you can add your resume there. Because like I said, you guys, sometimes it's not about chasing jobs. It's about letting them find you. Okay, we may have just wrapped up the National Finals Rodeo this past weekend, but we're still going to talk about rodeo because today's guest is somebody whose name is so incredibly well known in rodeo, but whose story goes far beyond the arena. Shada Brazile grew up in a rodeo family. She carved out a career of her own, and in 2013, she reached the pinnacle of the sport of rodeo by qualifying for the national finals alongside her husband, 26 world time champion, Trevor Brazile. But what is just as inspiring as her run to the NFR is what came next. Shada gracefully stepped back from competing to embrace motherhood. At the time, she already had 2 children. They went on to welcome another baby girl, Swayze, into their family, navigating life on the rodeo trail with 3 young kids and supporting her husband. And now she is fully in what I would consider to be her mom era, where her greatest joy is cheering on her kids as they chase their own dreams, which are very unique to each of them. I have known Shada for a really long time, and I have followed her journey, whether it is in the arena, on the basketball court, wherever life leads her children. She is the most incredible cheerleader and supporter, and she just has gone all in for them. And I just think that it is very inspiring as somebody who, as many of you, I am a very driven person, but I also will tell you that being a mother is the top of my priority list. But so often it feels like there is a struggle to, kind of navigate or balance both of those. And Shada is the kind of woman who she just proves that success is not only measured in gold buckles, but also in the legacy that you build at home. And I'm really excited to sit down with her today and talk about all of that and then some. So let's get right to today's show. We are sitting down with the one and only Shada Brazile. Shada, I am so looking forward to our conversation today. And there are a number of ways that I could take this conversation, but to kick things off, you grew up in a rodeo family. It is very, very well known within our industry and honestly across the world. But let's talk about the NFR because you did qualify for the NFR. With that dream, it is probably something that was part of your life for a very long time. So when did that first feel real for you? Like it was something that was attainable?
Yes, I did grow up. I grew up with a bunch of calf ropers around me. My uncle is Strand Smith, and my granddad, he was one of the first cowboys to get off on the right-hand side during the calf roping. And so I grew up around him. And then I wanted to be a barrel racer. So I had to learn a lot of things that I didn't know from ropers. But then, on the flip side, there was a lot of good things that came from that as well. But it was just something I wanted to do, but it didn't really ever feel attainable. And I was just pretty hard headed about it.
That's always how that goes, right?
Yeah.
So you qualified in 2013. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Long time ago. Yes.
Gosh, I truly do remember it like it was just yesterday, and I'm sure you would say the same thing, but can you kind of walk us through that season and what led up to that? I mean, as we can all imagine, you didn't just wake up on January 1st, 2013 and say, I'm going to go to the NFRE this year and make it happen. Like, what did that journey look like for you?
Yeah. So I had barrel horses, through college. I sold one of I guess the horse that I college rodeoed on to Molly Powell, and she made the finals the next year on that horse. So that was pretty cool to watch her, but it was bittersweet because I was like, gosh, that horse, I could have done this. But Molly is such a great hand. I probably couldn't have done it. That horse needed her in his life to shine. But so I sold my college horse to Molly, and then just started anything that I exercised for Trevor, I would take around the barrels. So his great calf horse Texaco was a heck of a barrel horse, but I never entered him because I felt too bad. I'm like, he's got a big job, but he could get it around the barrels. But just other calf horses, a horse named Sly, I sold to Brittany Posey, and she won pretty good on that horse. So I would just take his horses when I would exercise them and take them around the barrels. And I learned a lot from that. I learned different styles and different techniques and what made them work. And so that was a long span of time for me, but I learned more in that span than doing anything else. And then I had in 2011, towards the fall of 2011, I had two horses that were doing pretty good. And one broke its leg out in the pasture. The other one died of salmonella within 2 days.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that got me. That was really hard because I had high hopes for those horses. And so I just kind of I hit my knees. I was like, okay, Lord, you take it because I don't know. I'm out here. And so that next week, Brittany, it may have been like a month after that. I had those two horses insured. Brittany she was taking Dialet to the circuit finals, and she brought him to no, she didn't bring him. She had him at Waco at the circuit finals, and Trevor commented, he's like, hey, that's a pretty cool horse. He liked how he looked, and he was asking her about him. And so she called me and said, I'm coming out for Fort Worth. You need to try this horse. Trevor likes him. And I was like, no, I'm not trying. I need to just wait a minute and see what I'm supposed to do and take a breath. And so she came down, ran her first round at Fort Worth. She made the short round, and she called me on her way down. She said, I put Dialet in the trailer. You got to try him. And I joked with her. I was like, okay, if you saddle him for me and warm him up, I'll jump on. Just be. And she did. She saddled him for me and put the barrels up. And I was like, I guess I'm going to have to get on this horse. It was cold. I was just kind of a little bit bitter.
Right.
So I jumped on him, and he bucked with me a little bit, just playfully bucked after I turned the third barrel, and I loved him. And I was like, it was just a perfect fit for some reason. And that horse, actually, he was priced at the exact amount that the two horses that were insured for. That's how much that horse cost. So it was kind of one of those.
A perfect sign.
Yeah, just the timing and everything. God had a plan, and it was really kind of something to watch fall into place.
And then you made it to the NFR, which you had been there a number of times
Yeah.
with your family, with your husband.
Oh,
But
yeah.
how different is it when you are the competitor? Like you are the man, woman in this case, in the arena versus being in that support role of being in the stands and doing all of the things. What did that look like? And then also Trevor had qualified this same year. So how exactly did you guys manage that? You have two small children at this point. Both of you have these obligations. You are there to win. This is the pinnacle of the sport.
Oh, yeah.
That had to be a lot.
I absolutely loved it. I loved the madness, the busyness, everything, because really rodeoing, hardly ever sat in the stands. I loved being behind the scenes, whether I was at the trailer, like, messing with the horses, or I don't know, saddling, unsaddling, warming something up. And when I had the kids, I was a little bit different because obviously I had to take care of them. But to be back in the tent behind the scenes for me was so much better than sitting in the stands just waiting, because I could hear the guys talk about, what calf they had, what they did on the calf before. And that was always so interesting to me. I loved it so much. And then to see my brothers back there and just watch them stretch and warm up, that was my happy place. I loved it back there.
Oh, well, the reason that I kind of asked you those questions is leading up to this next part, which is, and what I mean, you are an incredible powerhouse of a person through and through, but this is what I really, really admire you for is after the NFR, you kind of stepped into what I would consider to be like a new chapter of sorts, because instead of saying, I've been to one, now I want to keep going down the rodeo road and I want to go to more, you didn't necessarily do that. You came back home. You and Trevor added a baby girl to the family. You already had 2 kids. And since then, you have been the best, most inspiring supporter of your children. Like, that is what I admire you for. And so a couple of questions in that, but was there a moment where you knew, like, this season isn't about me competing anymore. It's about being there for my children and my family. And how did you balance chasing your own goals, but then also stepping into motherhood more fully?
Yeah. So I think a big part of that for me is following, you can call it your inner peace. I call it the Holy Spirit. Not that I, have not followed that, but I think as a mom and as a person, I've learned to be more sensitive to that inner peace, inner calling. And if I step outside of that, I know it. And so I went to like the winter rodeos the next year that I had qualified for. And brought Dial back out on the summer and went to the rodeos I knew he did well at. But that was just for fun. It was not to try to make the finals. My cup was full after I made the finals. And I knew that I couldn't be the mom that I wanted to be. And I couldn't be the barrel racer that I wanted to be in the same moment. I did it.
Right.
I did it for a couple years, the year leading up to the finals, and then that year, and it was great. I had a lot of great help, but I knew that to fulfill my next purpose, which was raising my children, and I guess doing all the things that I needed to help them be great, or to help them, I guess, to raise them. I couldn't be the barrel racer I needed to be, you couldn't do things the way I needed to do it.
At that caliber.
Yes. Yeah. So it was easy. I didn't even miss it. I mean, it was fun, and it's fun to think about it and look back, but I was fulfilled.
What has been the most rewarding part of stepping into that role as going all in as a mom? And that's not to say, I do want to clarify, like, you've always been an incredible mom, because I feel like when I'm saying that, it's kind of making it sound like you weren't a great mom beforehand and then you went to the NFR and now you're so. I hope nobody takes it that way, but like, you really did, like, you put your dreams to the side and you said, okay, I've achieved this, but now I want to go all in on my kids so that they can achieve their dreams.
Yeah, no, I mean, it would be like if I was warming my horse up. My mom had my kids, but I knew where they were. I knew, like,
Yes.
my eyes were on them. Just the simple things. Just when someone randomly comes up to me and was like, "Hey, your son, he has great manners. I saw him at the concession stand, and he has great like." Those little things are the most rewarding, not their big accomplishments, because I mean, yeah, that's great and it's fun to watch, but it's who they are as a person. And when you see the small things, when you see them help somebody or open a door for somebody, that's the most rewarding.
Well, and that doesn't just happen by accident. Like, those are the things that we have to remind our kids how many times of, like, hey, make sure you say thank you. Hey, take your hat off at the dinner table, like all of those little things. So when you see them do that on their own, it really reminds you, okay, one, they actually are listening, contrary to popular belief.
So true.
But in a way, all of that, and I don't want to call it nagging, but like, it is worth it, because there is, the reward at the end when it is just second nature to them and they go and they do it and you just see it from afar. When they do go hold the door open for somebody or something like that, like, you think like, oh, I am actually making a difference. It's that Mother Teresa quote of like, if you want to change the world, go home and love your family.
So true.
You can make a big difference. But let's talk a little bit about those bigger achievements for your children. Treston ropes incredibly well. I think he's made it to the high school finals just about every year that he's competed. Style has numerous, and I mean numerous, D1 basketball offers, two very, very different passions. How do you and Trevor support your children in pursuing what really lights them up, even if it looks different from what your world is?
So I always said when I had my kids, because everybody, the question I got all the time is, are they going to rope? When are they roping? They're going to rodeo, this style going to run barrels. And my answer was always, they're going to do whatever makes their heart beat. So I'm a big believer in like every person has a passion. They're born with something that makes them passionate about. And it's so cool when we find what makes us tick and what we're passionate about. And that was just a prayer I had for my children, like so that they would know what their passion is and I would support them in that. And I didn't care what it was. I mean, it could be golf that I know absolutely nothing about. But rodeo, it's too hard. If you don't, everyone knows that. If you don't eat, breathe, sweat, cry, everything over rodeo and over your practice sessions and over your horses, someone is. And they're going to beat you because they're working harder at it. So if they don't love it, I do not want them to do it. So you just kind of expose them to different things and see what they latch onto and go from there.
Talking about all of your children, because we can't leave Swayze out of the picture either. What are some of the things that they have done to kind of like, what other sports have they been interested in? And how do you as a parent know, okay, they don't genuinely love this versus they just tell me they don't like it because it's getting hard for them and they need to kind of work through the hard to figure out if they like it or not? Because that's something that I see now. There's so many sports options and extracurriculars for kids. And oh, well, I'll put you in ballet this month and next month, oh, you don't like that? Well, we'll do taekwondo or we'll do basketball. Like, I feel like to a degree, you kind of have to make your kid do something for a while before they quit making the excuse of like, oh, I don't like this because it's hard.
Oh, without a doubt. Like if we started something and they didn't want to finish, that was never a question. Like if we started a soccer season and halfway through they thought that, they didn't want to keep doing it or didn't want to go to practice, they they actually, I don't even think they ever would ask that because they know better. They know once they start something, they will finish it. But I am a big believer too, like you've got to expose them to different things, but that you're right, that does have to stop at some point because you don't want them to just be kind of good in a lot of different things. Like find what they like and then go get that thing and work everything towards that. Like this last fall, for example, Swayze had played basketball and volleyball, and this last fall, I'm like, you know what? I don't think you're loving volleyball. Let's just do more basketball. And she was for that. She was like, oh yeah, that'd be great. Now she'll play in middle school or whatever. But as far as like travel or club season, we eliminated that. And yeah, so I think it's just something that you have to be real in tune with your kids. And it's something you have to figure out and think a lot about. But, see what they like and focus on that. But you can tell, you'll know, like if you have to remind them that they have practice or if you have to like drag them out of bed, which sometimes does happen, but you can tell just by watching, what they're excited for and what makes their little heartbeat.
Oh, absolutely. And, I think it's also a really good thing for them to have to learn that they have to choose. So, for example, last year was Jet's first year of playing flag football. And he had flag football games every Saturday for the month of September. And this little school can hardly make a team for the first and second grade. And so at the end of the last Saturday, it also overlapped with a junior rodeo that he had really been wanting to go to. And I was like, well, buddy, here's the deal. You committed to your football team. And if you don't show up, there are not enough football players and you guys can't play. So you can't go to this rodeo because you can't let your team down. And that was obviously hard for him in the moment, but it was such an incredible lesson.
Oh, yeah.
That's what sports are about. It's not about how many baskets you score or your touchdowns or yes, obviously a scholarship is great, but it's about all of the lessons that you learn in working hard and practice and being there for your teammates and just being a supportive leader. And creating a great culture with your team on and off the court. And those are the important elements that, I mean, take you through your life.
Yeah, for sure. And just the commitment, learning how to be committed to something and stay the course.
Yes, because it's so easy when you're older to kind of understand that, but especially when you're a kid, it's definitely a struggle.
It's a learned behavior for sure. You're not born with that natural just, oh, I've got to stay committed. They don't know that. They're 7, 8 years old. You had a learned behavior.
So one thing that I am really impressed with, and I think that everybody is just the overall success of your family. And I would be a fool to try to count the NFR qualifications between you and Trevor and your brothers and your Uncle Strand and Stetson. But then aside from rodeo, Strand's sons, they both play sports at the college level, I believe. His daughter, Selah, and then Cliff's daughter, Seattle, are both incredible runners. Taryn, who's married into the family, she is an athlete. Jennifer, who's married into the family, is Miss Rodeo America. Sonny, same thing. The list goes on. And I know I'm leaving out a number of people, but the point is that I think your family is the definition of that saying that winners hang out with winners. So here's what I want to know is when you guys are all together, like what are the conversations like at the dinner table? What is it that you guys are talking about? Because we've all heard this saying that the types of conversations that winners have is different. You guys are not talking about people, you're talking about things. But what is that like?
Yeah, I mean that I have heard that too. You become like the 5 people you're around the most or
Mhm.
whatever, and you don't really realize it like when you're growing up. One thing is we're such a competitive family. Like we for Christmas we have ping pong tournaments. We play ping pong once a year, but you would think we were professional ping pong. We think we're professional ping pong players, and it's war. Like it is war. So at the core of that, we're just super competitive. But I think that comes, I don't know, my granddad. I just think he got burned when I was 8, and watching him go through being burned and how tough he was. And I was there outside with him because growing up, I was always with him in the summer a lot, out at the ranch, and he was welding and I was watching him, and he got on to me because I was watching him and told me to go to the house and raised his voice. And I remember thinking, oh, I was so mad. I stomped my foot and walked to the house, and it wasn't 5 minutes. He was coming back, running up to the house, and he was burned all over his body. And the tree that I was standing next to burnt down. And
Holy cow.
so we had a 30-minute, ride to the hospital from the ranch. And the whole time he was telling me 2 things. He was telling me, pray for me. And then he would say, your granddad's not a sissy. Your granddad's not a sissy. Don't think he's a sissy. And I don't know how many times that voice came into my head. I'm not a sissy. Like, there's just something like deep down in you. You got to know who you came from, where you came from, and, draw strength from the Lord and know that you're not a sissy. For kid stuff.
No, but I think there is so much truth to that. I remember throughout my younger years around my family, my dad, anytime that I was faced with some kind of adversity, my dad would tell me, Jessie, Thompsons are tough, because that was my maiden name was Thompson. And even to this day, like when I have to do hard, scary things, like I tell myself, Jessie, you're a Thompson. Thompsons are tough. Like the people who have came before me, like this wasn't going to have stopped them. So it better not stop you. But it is just like that type of tenacity.
Hmm.
It is clearly it is genetic, but it is also, I mean, when it comes to your sister-in-laws and all of that, you really have been surrounded by a great family. But not only, obviously, you'd mentioned that you guys are very competitive, but I love how supportive you guys all
Hmm.
are of one another, because there can be a lot of situations where we're all so competitive, we just hate each other and we're jealous. And that is not the case at all. Like you guys are the most supportive family that I've probably ever witnessed as well. Is that innate within you, or how does that work?
Yeah, I haven't thought much about that, but now that you say that, like there is not jealousy in our family. That is one thing. I mean, and I don't really know why or where that would come from, but And maybe because, like, what most of us do, rodeo, I mean, it's hard. Everyone knows how hard it is. There's highs and there's lows, and we all know that. And when someone's doing good and they're on that high, man, we're happy for them. Like, we're ready for them to, get those wins. And because we know what they've been through, and we've been through that stuff. So maybe that's where it comes from. But we really are supportive and happy for each other, no matter what, we're accomplishing.
Oh, well, like I said, this has been such a good conversation just about kind of going into that next journey and really leaning into your children or whatever your calling is and still being able to chase your dreams and also being a supportive family and what it takes to have supportive family and be successful. But I want to ask you our rapid fire round questions before I let you go. What do you hope people remember most about you?
I'm going to say that I was a good mom and wife.
What is a non-negotiable in your life?
On a lighter note, coffee in the mornings.
I feel that very deeply.
Yes, and I have to go on runs. That's kind of my thing. I love to run. So I'm more clear-minded and just a better, happier person if I've had my runs that week. So
Oh, coffee, yes. Running, man, I've never had that like rush that people get from running. I'm very envious of those who do. Okay, for most people, the question is, if you were a professional athlete, what would your walk-up song be? But technically, Shada, you are a professional athlete or have been one in the past. So what would your walk-up song be?
Oh gosh. I don't know. I was listening. Oh man, that's a hard one. I've ran the walk up songs for my kids when they played baseball. So I've got a whole list of walk up songs. I don't know. I don't know what mine would be. I don't know. Old church choir, maybe.
Okay, I like that. What is the smartest thing that someone's ever told you?
Probably Trevor. He didn't tell me, but he's repeated it a lot in his life with interviews and different things. But he said, and we talked about it a little bit, but don't take the highs too high and the lows too low.
Ooh, that is very, very sound advice. Because the other one is coming, good or bad, wherever you are, it's not going to last too long.
Yeah.
Okay, last question for you today. Do you have a favorite book or podcast, a life hack, some kind of product that you swear by, something that you would just consider to be like a life changer that you want more people to know about?
I'd have to go, and it's none of the things you listed. I'll have to think on that. But my life hack really is to get out and run and move and do some type of workout every day because you feel so much better. I'm going to just have to swear by that.
I absolutely echo that. I am a firm believer that energy brings energy. Like when you're tired, going and laying down and taking a nap, like I guess it may make you feel better in the moment, especially if you like didn't sleep all night kind of tired. But if it's just because you're lacking momentum or motivation or energy that way, go out and move your body. Using energy is actually going to build more energy.
Yes.
That's why so many people feel so great after they've worked out in the morning. It's because they started their day out with that massive boost of energy and they're able to continue it throughout the day.
It's so true. And I'll have to tell myself, because there's a lot of times I'm like, I'm tired or I don't want to get started, but I don't do it I think about when I'm done with it. Like I do it for that moment when I'm finished with it. And then the rest of my day is so much better.
Oh, I firmly, firmly believe that. Okay. Well, thank you so much for this incredible conversation. You are just such a light. And like I said before, you are a true powerhouse and inspiration for so many. Again, rodeo connection or not, but I have just always been so inspired by you for a number of reasons. But first and foremost, just the type of mother that you are. And so I so thank you for sharing your wisdom with our listeners today. One other question for you. Where can people go find you online?
Instagram, just Shada Brazile on Instagram.
You guys can go catch up with Shada and I guess tune in for the ping pong tournament.
Yeah.
Hopefully Shada and her team will be taking home the top spot. But thank you so much. This has been awesome. We'll see you guys next week. If you loved this episode, do us a favor and share it with someone else who might find just as much value in it as you did. We're on a mission to continue to grow and strengthen the future of agriculture and Western industries, and you spreading the word helps us make more of a positive impact. It also makes a big difference when you take a minute to go rate and review the show. We can't thank you enough for listening, for sharing, and for loving Ag and Western as much as we do. We'll see you back here for our next episode.